Rain poured heavily on the tin roof of a small, crumbling house at the edge of the bustling city of Lagos. Inside, a young woman sat silently on a wooden chair, her clothes damp from the journey she had taken earlier that morning. Her name was Amara, a 25-year-old woman with eyes that carried both resilience and deep sorrow. She had just buried her father, a man she had never truly known. Amara's life had been shaped by hardship. Raised solely by her mother, she grew up believing her father had abandoned them when she was only a baby. Her mother never spoke much about him, only saying, "Some men are not meant to be in our lives, my child." So, when her mother passed away when Amara was just 18, she was left entirely on her own, scraping by through odd jobs and small tailoring work. But 2 weeks ago, a letter arrived. It was written in elegant handwriting and sealed with a golden emblem. The letter informed her that her father had died and requested her presence at his burial. Confused and angry, Amara almost tore it up. But something deep inside urged her to go. She didn't know it then, but that decision would change her life forever. The funeral was grand. Extravagant cars lined the driveway of a massive estate surrounded by towering palm trees. Men in crisp suits and women in glittering gowns moved about with quiet grief. Amara stood awkwardly near the back, dressed in a simple black dress she had sewn herself. People whispered and stared. "Who is that girl?" someone murmured. "I heard she's the daughter from his previous relationship," another voice hissed, as if Amara was some dark secret. She felt completely out of place, but she forced herself to stay. This was her father's funeral, and even though she barely knew him, she needed to pay her respects. As the ceremony concluded, a tall, well-dressed woman approached. She introduced herself as Mrs. Okoro, the family lawyer. "Miss Amara," she said gently, "your father left specific instructions for me to meet with you after the burial. Please, come to my office tomorrow. It's important." Amara nodded nervously. She didn't understand why a man who had never been in her life would want to see her after death through a lawyer. Meanwhile, in another corner of the estate, a group of people watched Amara closely. Among them was Kelechi, her husband of 3 years, and his mother, Mama Kelechi. Kelechi's family had always looked down on Amara. They came from a wealthy background, while she had nothing to her name. When Kelechi married her out of love, his mother was furious, insisting that he deserved a woman from a proper family. And now, seeing Amara connected to this wealthy man's funeral, Mama Kelechi's heart burned with envy. "Do you see how she carries herself?" Mama Kelechi whispered to her daughter-in-law, Adiz. "Poor girl pretending to belong among the rich. I told Kelechi she would bring shame to this family." Adiz smirked. "Don't worry, Mama. Once we get her out of the way, everything will be ours." The next day, Amara went to Mrs. Okoro's office. She sat nervously as the lawyer opened a thick file. "Amara," Mrs. Okoro began, "your father may not have been present in your life, but he always cared for you from afar. He provided financial support to your mother anonymously, and when she passed, he tried to reach out. Unfortunately, he was very ill by then." Tears filled Amara's eyes. She had spent her whole life believing her father didn't care, only to learn he had been watching over her from the shadows. Mrs. Okoro continued, her tone becoming more serious. "Your father was a billionaire, one of the wealthiest men in the country. And in his will, he named you as his sole heir." Amara's mouth fell open. "Me? That can't be right." "It is," Mrs. Okoro confirmed, sliding papers across the desk. "This estate, his companies, all his assets, they belong to you now." Amara felt dizzy. She had walked into this office with barely enough money for transportation, and now she was being told she owned unimaginable wealth. But Mrs. Okoro held up a cautioning hand. "You must be careful. Wealth like this attracts envy and danger. Until we finalize everything legally, I advise you to keep this information to yourself." Amara nodded numbly, not realizing just how prophetic those words would be. When Amara returned home, her husband Kelechi was waiting. But instead of the comfort she expected, he looked at her with cold, suspicious eyes. "Where have you been all day?" he demanded. "At the lawyer's office," she replied honestly. "My father's lawyer." Kelechi's eyes narrowed. "And what did she say?" Amara hesitated. Mrs. Okoro's warning echoed in her mind. "Nothing much," she lied softly. "Just that my father cared about me." But Kelechi didn't believe her. Deep down, he had always been resentful of Amara's connection to her father's mysterious wealth. Later that night, as Amara lay asleep, Kelechi slipped out of bed and called his mother. "Mama," he whispered, "there's something going on. That lawyer knows something, and Amara's hiding it from me." "Mama," Kelechi hissed through the phone, "I knew that girl would bring trouble. You must find out what she's hiding before she ruins us." Days passed, and the tension in the house grew unbearable. Mama Kelechi and Adiz began treating Amara even worse than before. They criticized everything she did, the food she cooked, the clothes she wore, even the way she spoke. Finally, one evening, Mama Kelechi gathered everyone in the living room. "Amara," she said coldly, "this house is for people who bring value to the family. You came here with nothing, and you still have nothing. We cannot continue to feed a burden." Kelechi shifted uncomfortably but said nothing. "You will pack your things and leave tonight," Mama Kelechi continued. "Go back to wherever you came from. My son deserves a real wife, not this." Amara's heart shattered. She looked at Kelechi, hoping he would defend her, but he only stared at the floor. "Kelechi, you're not going to say anything?" she whispered. He swallowed hard. "Amara, maybe it's for the best. Mama is right. Things have been difficult." Tears streamed down her face as she realized the man she loved had chosen his family's approval over her. With trembling hands, she packed her small bag and left the house. The heavy rain outside mirrored her heartbreak as she walked away with nowhere to go. That night, Amara stayed in a cheap guest house, her mind racing. She thought about telling them the truth, that she was now wealthy beyond their imagination. But she remembered Mrs. Okoro's warning. "No," she whispered to herself. "Let them think I'm nothing. They will see soon enough." The next morning, Amara returned to Mrs. Okoro's office. "Everything they said about me last night," she said, her voice shaking with anger, "they threw me out like garbage because I was poor. But now, I have power. What do I do?" Mrs. Okoro gave her a sympathetic smile. "Revenge is tempting, my dear, but you must be wise. Wealth should be used to build, not destroy. Let's finalize the legal documents first. Then, you will decide how to handle them." Amara nodded. She would wait. She would be patient. But deep in her heart, a storm was brewing. Meanwhile, back at Kelechi's home, Mama Kelechi was celebrating. "Finally, that useless girl is gone," she said with a satisfied grin. "Now we can focus on finding a proper wife for my son." Adiz laughed. "I heard a rumor that the old man's estate is up for grabs. Maybe we should see if we can get our hands on some of it." Kelechi frowned. "Mama, what if she's connected to that wealth?" Mama Kelechi scoffed. "That girl? Impossible. She's too simple, too plain. Someone like her could never inherit such riches." But they were about to learn just how wrong they were. Kelechi frowned. "Mama, what if she's connected to that wealth?" Mama Kelechi scoffed. "That girl? Impossible. She's too simple, too plain. Someone like her could never inherit such riches." But they were about to learn just how wrong they were. Weeks passed, and Amara transformed. She moved into a luxurious apartment provided by Mrs. Okoro while the legal process unfolded. With guidance, she learned about her father's businesses, investments, and properties. For the first time, she felt powerful. No longer was she the timid, impoverished girl begging for acceptance. She was now a woman of influence. Meanwhile, Kelechi's family began to suffer financially. Kelechi lost his job due to poor decisions, and debts piled up. One evening, as they sat in darkness due to an unpaid electricity bill, a sleek black car pulled up outside. "Who is that?" Mama Kelechi asked nervously. The door opened, and Amara stepped out, elegant, confident, radiant. They gasped. "Amara?" Adiz stuttered. "But how?" Amara smiled coolly. "I came to check on my former family. It seems you've been struggling." Mama Kelechi's eyes bulged. "Where did you get all this money?" Amara's voice was calm but cutting. "From the father you mocked me for not having. The same father whose funeral you treated me like a stranger at. I am now the owner of everything he built." Kelechi fell to his knees. "Amara, please, forgive me. I was wrong. We were all wrong." But Amara's expression didn't soften. "You threw me out because you thought I had nothing," she said. "Now, you want to return because of what I have. Tell me, Kelechi, is that love or greed?" Silence filled the room. Amara turned to leave. "I didn't come for revenge. I came to show you that a person's worth is never measured by their wealth. Goodbye." And with that, she walked away, leaving them in stunned silence. After that night, Amara focused on her new life. She invested in community projects, built schools, and created opportunities for young women like herself, girls who had been overlooked and undervalued. One day, she saw Kelechi again at a public event. He looked thinner, worn down by guilt and hardship. "Amara," he whispered, tears in his eyes. "I've lost everything. I just wanted you to know. I regret it all." Amara studied him quietly before responding. "Kelechi, I forgave you long ago," she said softly. "But forgiveness doesn't mean I must let you back into my life. We must both live with the consequences of our choices." As she walked away, the crowd parted around her, a symbol of how far she had risen. In a world obsessed with wealth, Amara's journey was a reminder that true value lies not in what you own, but in who you are. Those who judged her for being poor learned too late that dignity and integrity are worth more than any fortune. And for Amara, her greatest revenge was not her newfound riches, but the life she built, free from those who once tried to break her.